video on correlation. If you've not yet watched the first video or gone to the reading in the book as suggested at the end of that video, my suggestion is to go back and do so that way you have a good foundational understanding of what is in this and the next video. So our correlation coefficient tells us how well our data fit a straight line. And in order to calculate this correlation coefficient R, we have two different formulas. The first of which is here at the bottom of the screen. Now this formula looks a little bit complicated, but as you'll notice there's only three different aspects to this. There's x's, there's y's, and there are n's. And so we're going to go through an example to illustrate how we can take a data set and then use that in order to calculate this correlation coefficient. Okay, so let's look at some raw data here. Let's look at the relationship between the length of an animal and its weight. And so as we see here, we have pairs of XY data, and we have our formula here to calculate our correlation coefficient. So in order to do so, we need to make sure that we have all the appropriate calculations in place before we start putting things into the formula. So the first thing that we notice here is that we have some x's, we have some y's, and then we also have some x squareds, some y squareds, and then some xy's. And so first step will be to calculate the x squareds, the y squareds, and the xy's. So after we go ahead and do so, we'll then go through and take the appropriate summations to start filling in parts of our respective formula. So we need to take the summation of our respective x's for areas like here, the summation of y's for areas like here. We need to take the summation of x squareds for this portion of the formula, the summation of our y squareds for this portion of the formula, and the summation of our xy for this portion of the formula. We also need to take note of this particular section of the formula is not the summation of our x squareds, it's the summation of x, and then we square it. So again, following orders of operations. So we can go through and we can calculate out those respective values. And then it's a matter of filling in our values for our numerator and for our denominator. And again, one important note here is that n represents our sample size, but it represents the number of data pairs that we have, not the total number of data points that we have, here highlighted in the yellow. So we can go through and we can fill in the respective values for our formula in which to calculate out this R value. So we can go through and we can calculate the numerator, and then we can go through and we can calculate the denominator. Once we have those two values, we can then calculate our R squared value simply by taking the numerator and dividing it by the denominator. Now, in addition to that first formula, we have another formula that we can use, and we can simplify this down to the formula at the bottom here. 1 over n minus 1 times the summation of zx, zy. Now, depending on the information that you're given for a particular problem, it might be more advantageous to use the first formula that we just covered, or it might be more advantageous to use this formula. One of the keys will be that you can use either of these formulas regardless of which information you're given, as long as you have all of the raw data. And so you should feel comfortable calculating the correlation coefficient with either one of these formulas, because one might actually be faster than the other, or you may find that you're more comfortable calculating it with one formula or the other. Now, something key, as I mentioned, using the previous formula and for this formula, is that n is representing the number of data pairs for each of these formulas. So when we're thinking about these xy pairs. So if we go to our data set again, let's use this second formula in which to determine the correlation coefficient of our data set. So the first step will be to calculate the mean and the standard deviation of our x's and our y's. Now, if you are given the mean and the standard deviation of x and y, it might be an indication that this might be a more timely formula to use, or more timely means of calculating the correlation coefficient. But again, you can use the first formula if you want. From this information, we're then going to calculate our zx and our zy, because that is a part of how we're calculating our R value. So zx is our data minus the mean over the standard deviation. So this is for each one of our respective variables that we are assessing. So we can go through and we can input our respective values into this formula, and we can get our zx's and our zy's. Now note that you have a zx and a zy for each one of our respective data pairs. And also note that some of those values are going to be positive and some are going to be negative. If all of your values are positive or all of them are negative, then it probably means that something went wrong and you want to go back and check to make sure that you calculated this right. So the next step is going to be to calculate the summation of our zx and our zy. So before we do this, again following orders of operations, we need to calculate zx, zy. So we need to multiply the zx by the zy for each one of our data pairs. And then we go through and take the summation. Again, we want to make sure that we're following orders of operations. We don't want to take the summation of zx and then take the summation of zy and then multiply them, because we're going to get a value of 0 or something really, really close to 0. Multiply zx by zy first, then take the summation. Once we do that for our particular data set, we get a value of 4.16. Now this is not the end of our calculation. Again, if we remember our rules, r is between -1 and 1, so this would indicate to us that this is incorrect. And the reason for this is that we have one more step in the formula. We need to multiply this value times 1 over n minus 1. So we can go ahead and do so, and in our particular example we've got 10 different data pairs. So our r value ends up being 0.46, the same as it was when we calculated it with the other formula. So again, it doesn't matter which formula you're using, but what does matter is that you're effective at using both of them and you know how to get this r value. And so based on this correlation coefficient, we can say that there's a weak positive linear relationship between x and y. And this is because our value is positive and because our value is somewhere between 0.3 and 0.7. Now, we went through these examples relatively quickly. We'll be doing more in class, but my suggestion is to go to section 13.2 of the book and to work through example 13.1 as another example to work through, so that way you feel comfortable calculating out this correlation coefficient. Now, a couple important things that we need to address when it comes to correlation is that the values of our correlation coefficient don't depend on the units of measurements for variables. We could be comparing kilometers to biomass. We could be comparing elevation to diet. Lots of different potential questions that we can address. And also what's important is that it doesn't matter which of our variables serves as x and which of our variables serves as y. In this particular case, correlation is just looking at the relationship of these two variables. It's not looking if there's any kind of cause or effect. We know that our r value needs to be between -1 and 1. And an r value of 1 or -1 indicates that all of the data points fit perfectly on a straight line. And this r value is going to tell us the strength of our linear relationships. It's not going to tell us which variable is affecting the other. And this brings us to a point which is very commonly referred to but potentially not understood, is that correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation. And so if there's some type of relationship between two variables, it doesn't mean that one of those variables is causing the other. For example, we can think about a city, and we can think about the number of doctors and the number of people that potentially die in that city each year. And it might be that we have a pretty strong positive correlation between doctors and the number of deaths in a city. Now, this doesn't mean that if we hire more doctors that there's going to be more people that die within the respective city. It probably means that as a city gets larger, there's a higher population. We need more doctors to treat those potential patients, and potentially there's more people that die on an annual basis. So there's a third variable in which both of them are related to the size of the population. So correlation is telling us if there's a relationship between two variables, but we can't say if one is causing the other. So we can't come to any kind of conclusions about cause and effect relationships. Now, we shouldn't take this to mean that there isn't a cause and effect relationship, but we can't use correlation to identify this and describe it. We need to use regression for this, and that'll be the next set of lectures after we finish with correlation. So moving forward, now that we know how to calculate a correlation coefficient, we're then in the next video going to discuss how to determine if that is significant or not. Because just because a correlation coefficient is strong or weak doesn't tell us if it's significant or not.